Well, Samantha, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. Well, I thought we would start sort of at the beginning. We have a lot to talk about from the kind of work that you do, and but I thought we'd kind of start. I always like to talk about family of origin stuff. A little bit about like what life was like growing up for you, like what your dad did. Did your mom stay at home? That kind of stuff, because childhood really kind of sets the stage for the rest of it. So, tell me a little bit about what it was like when you were little.
So when I was little, we looked really good on paper, I would say. You hear that a lot. My dad, he looking back at all the hobbies that he had and all the things that he did, I don't know how I ever saw him. So he's an orthopedic surgeon. And I mean, he was into biking, redoing his Jeep. Like, I mean, he had his hands, he had a dark room, he had his hands in everything. And
Wow.
I can't even get like one hobby. So I don't know how he did all of that. I'm like, I'm gonna mosaic again. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I can't even read 10 pages of a book every day unless it's like so hard. And my mom is a teacher and an artist. And so she pretty much was teaching a little bit when I was younger and then eventually stay-at-home mom. And so she's just sort of this very abstract art, does not care if she sells it or not, kind of the starving artist, but does a lot of work getting grants and things. Like she has her hands in
Oh,
a
wow.
lot. So that was her thing, but she pretty much stayed home with us.
And
So
you have siblings?
I do, I have a brother. It was one of those where I feel like I was always like chasing his tail to get his attention and to get him to love me. We've had a rough relationship. I think when we are younger, everyone thought it looked fine, but when I've done like a lot of therapy on all of it, I tend to fall into the trap of chasing men that won't, give me anything back, or it's
Mm,
just enough love, then it's none, and then it's, you know what I mean? That what is that? It's called a
it's like a
seeking
attachment
attention.
theory stuff.
Yeah, attachment, like something
Is
attachment.
it a anxious
Anxious,
attachment?
yes, exactly. It's sort of like that. And
Yeah.
so, that carried over for sure in a lot of my relationships with men, I would say, down the road.
Yeah, that's really
So,
common. It's like the predominant feelings that you have when you're growing up is sort of what you carry through into your adult life.
oh, 100%, and my dad, I was kind of daddy's little girl, but then like he always had my back. But then with my mom, what would happen is like I remember when I was in a lot of trouble, I was like, Dad, I was like, I'm gonna test dirty on a drug test. And he like took the drug test for me. But then he would turn
Oh,
around and discipline me with my mom. So it was very, like, very confusing for me. Like he'd have my back about my mom, and then he would like shift gears when she was around.
yeah.
She's the boss.
She's the boss.
She's the boss. Very manipulative, very strong
Mhm.
willed.
Was your mom, would you say she was a nurturing mom or was she more of a critical parent?
I feel like they're both pretty critical. I feel like I don't
High
know though.
standards?
I feel like I could be that. They're very loving. They'll say like, "Oh, you've done great," but it's always like it always comes with like a buffer, like, "Oh, you didn't do that good enough," first, or like something like that. I don't feel like I've ever been like one of those like where I have to achieve some and excel in some extreme amount of way to like satisfy my parents' need to like push me further. But it is sort of that I do get that in my head, like it's never good enough. Like it's never
Yeah.
good enough. And I don't know if some of that is me, and some of it is I mean, I was kind of an asshole. So I don't know. So I was
I listen,
really,
I
really,
get that.
yeah, I was a really good kid, until I wasn't. And then I
Right.
was a really good kid until I wasn't. And it was that cycle.
Yeah.
So I'm really good at making things right.
Yeah.
But I'm
It's so
really
interesting because it sounds like you come from, they sound like high achievers, and high achievers have high standards, and then they expect that, from their kids. And listen, what little I know of you, we haven't known each other for that long, but girl, you are a hustler. You are a seeker. You get shit done. So I can see how those, we always adopt some of the positive character traits and then also some of the struggles,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, nobody escapes childhood without some issues.
Oh no, I got issues. And I'm sure part of it too is like, I think what's carried over from them is like the push to excel has been more so, it's just been things that they wouldn't necessarily do. So when I graduated college, I was like, I'm moving to LA, and that's when I wanted to DJ and all this stuff. And they knew that I wouldn't even come home. Like I was like going right out there, and they're like, you need to come home first. But I convinced them otherwise. But my
Where did you graduate with?
University of Michigan,
With what
a
kind of degree?
bachelor's in sports management.
Mm,
I was going to own a
nice.
professional football team
Oh, of
or
course you were.
manage. Yeah, right. That was my goal at the time. And so, but I remember my mom being like, if we said no to you and didn't let you go out to LA, as much as every single bit of my being knew that it was the worst decision as parents that we could have ever had you do, they're like, you would have never forgiven us. We know you. They would have never. And here I was, and I ended up, in prison, drug dealing, like the whole 9 yards out in LA. But I probably would have found something to fuck up wherever I was. I don't know. Maybe not.
Listen, we all have the lessons that we need to learn. So whether you learn them at home or somewhere else, maybe
Yeah.
that's what you needed to
Yeah.
do. I don't know. I feel like I love that idea that there are no mistakes, there are only lessons,
Yeah.
right? And a lesson is repeated until it's learned. And then we know that we've learned something by a change in behavior. And however we get those lessons, sometimes the most painful ones are the best ones that have changed our lives. And listen, I know you wouldn't be who you were today without all those life experiences. So
Oh, 100%.
and you're fucking awesome. So it's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to regret that.
Yeah. And I think
Let-
it's like failure. Like I love to fail. Like some people will not try anything because they're so afraid. It makes me want to cry. Like they're so afraid to fail. And I'm like, it's not even failing in my mind. It's like that's how you
yeah,
grow. Like you just learn your lesson, you pick your feet up and you just keep going. Like I just don't
I
know
hear you.
it's just I think people are born with certain things, they're raised certain ways, and it's like it becomes whatever flavor cake that is. And I think that, you know, I just don't fear failure. I
That's
don't
awesome.
like I don't like to be wrong. Like I love to be right, but I don't like when I have put my mind to something, it's like, okay, well that didn't work. I need to do this another way. Or I'm just a super bulldog and I just keep going at it. I just like, okay, we're gonna figure it out another way to do this.
I absolutely relate to that.
Maybe I just like
Just
to get my
keep
way.
it moving. Keep it moving.
I know.
Well, let's talk about a little bit how we got here. You know, so you've been clean and sober you've had quite a long time. I know you had a relapse at 13 years, but let's talk about how we got here. How old were you when you first either experimented with drugs or alcohol? How did that start for you?
I didn't have that aha. I feel like everyone has the aha moment. I was in seventh grade when I first drank, and in eighth grade when I first smoked pot.
That sounds about right.
Yep, normal
Yeah.
to us.
What was your experience at those times? Did you have one of those? I mean, like when I first had my drink, I was like, ah, this is it.
No,
You didn't have that? It was just
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
I
that's
probably
fun.
blacked out. I don't know. I probably was shortly soon naked with someone. Like that was kind of my thing. I black out and I get naked. Right? I don't know. I was like a blackout drinker, like so quick, like into it. Weed, I never really loved, but I did it. But I remember watching like my favorite movies, like Basketball Diaries, which was that
Oh yeah,
that
Jim
heroin
Carroll.
addict, Jim Carroll, yeah. And like I like thrived off those movies. Like those movies like made me like warm
Yeah.
and fuzzy, like which
Isn't
isn't
that
normal.
funny? I remember reading
And
those books.
Less Than Zero,
Oh, Less Than Zero. Wow. Yeah.
all those were like my go-tos. Empire Records, like I was thinking about this actually the other day, and I'm like, what the hell? Um, So I was always like drawn to that. Like there was some inner like, so that's, I feel like that aha, like I was like, oh, like it was like sexy to me.
Yeah.
Like Leonardo DiCaprio, totally strung out on drugs. It's like that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I want a guy like that. It's like not right.
I want to be that guy. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, right. Oh God. That's an
Yeah,
intense movie.
those books were wild. It was almost like permission. I remember reading the Jim Carroll Basketball Diaries and thinking, you can do that? Like that's an option? That sounds amazing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
crazy.
Any of those drug addict movies, celebrities, wafy kind of, I mean, the Kate Moss, like all that.
Yeah.
I
The
was just
heroin
onto it. So
chic.
that,
Yeah.
yep. So I just think that it was in there. I was
Yeah, it
on
was
with
in
it.
there. So, it's common for kids to experiment and kind of go down that road. When did it stop being fun and start being a problem?
It was fun for it was fun for a while. I mean, I was a blackout drinker. I didn't like drinking. Once I got through the college and realized drinking wasn't really my thing, and I found, then junior year of college, I found like meth, GHB, ketamine, and ecstasy, and then I had a cocktail for life. Like, I didn't like cocaine. I was good, and I was good for a significant period of time. I moved out to LA, and as I said, I was selling drugs, and I got into what happened was I basically, maybe my moral compass was like kicking again, and I just knew I was in a very abusive relationship, like physically abusive, tried to
Oh,
get restraining orders, could not get out. My house had been raided. So the paranoia was on like level 8,000. I was so worried they put
the
like bugs
police raided your
out.
house?
Yeah, I had a full SWAT raid at my house.
Oh, how old were you when this was happening?
This happened at 20, I think 25,
Oh
25
my
years old.
God. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So between, so I had that happen. I was in this relationship that I just like couldn't like just break free of because he would, threaten to scream out my apartment that I was a drug dealer, or he would
Oh
take my
my
dog and steal my dog. Physically, I mean, it just was insane. And I just knew that I had to not die. Like I just, I just know like I'll get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when I am, I'll be done. And that's how I work. It's how I've always worked with everything in my life. And I just have to survive. And it wasn't fun at that point. Like nothing was
Yeah.
fun. I wanted to stop using meth. I did not know how. I could not. I tried to start drinking. I remember drinking wine, like to try to kind of stop at that point. I wasn't really doing the ecstasy, GHB was sort of like I wasn't really doing any of that. I was just fully addicted to meth at that point. And I didn't know where to go. Like I didn't know what, I guess I knew about rehab. I didn't know about like 12-step program. And what happened was a friend of mine went to rehab, and I went to go visit him. He's like, you should come visit me. And I was like, okay, because I was just alone. I didn't even know. And I kind of wanted what he had, It was like that
Mm.
thing, like he's so happy, and like something's got to give. And it's like my parents knew. My mom came to visit me and just like sat on my couch for a week.
Oh, she
She's like, I
did.
just feel like I need to be here. Like that
Wow.
maternal stuff is weird. I
Yeah.
remember, and she just came and sat on my couch in my apartment, and like I'd go smoke meth in my room, and like I'd be like, everything's fine. And I remember I was just short and angry and a mess.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the walls were coming down, and it wasn't fun. And that's when I called them one day, and I just kind of looked at my dog, and I said, it's time, right? You think I should go to rehab? And she came over and put her head in my lap. And I
Oh.
called my parents and went, and I was like, I'm going to rehab. 28 days only. And it has to have a pool. But I found this great place. It was like Passages or something in Malibu. You
Oh
go take
yeah.
massages, you go kayaking. I'm like, I'm in. And they were like, this doesn't even have a 12-step program and you're not going. I was like, okay, back to the board.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I
So
love
you
rehab.
so you found a rehab and you were
Yeah.
able to stay for the, 28, 30 days
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love it.
What was it about rehab that, kind of opened your eyes or helped you to change your ways?
The first thing that I noticed is I started laughing again for the first time in
Oh, wow.
years. And that pink cloud that you get when you're sober, I got that fast. Like it wasn't a cloud, it was like the whole sky. Like it was so good. It was so good. I was laughing like it felt like summer camp. I started working out again. I've always been an athlete, I was a hardcore athlete growing up. You know, uh, I loved it. I've always been like love doing like self-care. Like I don't know. And we got to make our own food. I was super healthy again. I didn't think I'd ever be able to work out again in my life. Like I thought I just was too out of shape. And it just like I picked it right back up. It was crazy.
Wow.
I met amazing people. I mean, I'd go back today.
I know. I didn't know rehab was a thing. I found 12 steps and did that. And I was so jealous of people who got to go to rehab because it sounds amazing.
Oh yeah. And I mean I didn't have a kid. I was looking at doing I had a LA County case coming at me, so I was gonna have to probably go to jail for that. And then a potential federal case that I may be indicted for coming at me.
Oh
And
my
I did
God.
not even care. I went through all of it 100% completely sober. I did my LA County time sober. Yeah, I mean, didn't even matter. I just was like, it sucked. Like it was hell. But
Yeah.
I was sober. Like I literally,
So
it didn't matter.
how did you get sober? You made the decision, you went to rehab, and that was it. Like you
That was
didn't
it.
use after that. Did you go through a detox period off of meth?
Well, so I wasn't drinking. So with meth, I think I was in detox for like a day. I slept for
Oh,
like a
okay.
day or two. I got off it. Like it was like nothing. I tried to quit 2 times prior to that and I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't do it. And I
Right.
was able to just, I don't know, I'm real hard headed. So if it's when I'm done, or if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I guess I don't know, but I hit my breaking point.
Yeah.
Emotionally bankrupt, all the things. Like I just,
Right.
and I was a high bottom, I guess. Well, I don't know.
Hi, bottom. You had some federal federal court cases coming
Yeah,
at
I
you,
know, right? I know.
but you mean you didn't
I
lose
mean,
the
I had an
stuff?
apartment, I had money, I wasn't living out of
Yeah.
a car,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I
That
was,
is. Yeah.
yeah. So
I
I,
get
I,
that.
I kind of take it as that, like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I was the same way. I had like all the stuff. So, oh, that's not really true, but I had some stuff. Okay, so yeah, so you're a relatively high bottom in the sense that you had stuff, but on the inside it was like that emotional, spiritual bankruptness.
Oh yeah, I was done.
Where were you at with the spirituality angle? Like, did you have a higher power of some kind growing up? Did you find one in rehab? How did that work out for
Interesting.
you?
So, with my higher power, sorry, um, I think I just was so done that I just was like, okay, there's a higher being. Because I was in the program. So 12 steps were my thing. God is a big part of that people get tripped up on. I didn't want to let myself get tripped up on that. I was like, well, I don't know anything about God, so I can't pray to God. I grew up in a family that celebrated all the fun holidays. I am technically Jewish. My mom is Christian converted. And I remember asking for a bat mitzvah when I was 13, never had it. And last June, I had a bat mitzvah.
Oh, you did?
Did I
Good
did.
for you.
So I think for me, I was lucky. I had some sort of higher being in the beginning. I was just sober. I just was done. When I relapsed after 13 years, I could not get the higher power thing. I prayed. It was like, so, I don't know. I just prayed and prayed and prayed, prayed to God, prayed to anything, pray, got on my knees, prayed. I decided to have a bat mitzvah. Maybe that's what I needed to get this. Like I was doing everything to try to like
Mm.
get it.
Were you
And
just not, were you not feeling it or
I
seeing
think I
it?
was trying to control things,
Hmm.
control like my prayer. Like I was trying to control the outcome too much.
Oh,
I wasn't just like letting it go, letting what
right.
I wanted help with. I wasn't letting it go. I
That's
don't know.
hard.
you know, and
That's
now
really
I
hard.
just am like, okay, well, I'll put that on the back burner and my higher power will take care of it. And so it gets me to like not think about it. I think I was praying for like, I just like, please, I need money, you know, like I need money to help with my kid. And now I just ask God or my higher power to relieve me of the anxiety that I get when I know that I need some financial assistance or whatever it
Oh,
is.
that's a
Like,
good one,
oh, it is so,
Stephanie.
and then after that, it was like, boom, I was like, oh my God, okay. Cause it's just, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, fine, don't give me the money, don't help me, I
Right.
don't know. Just get rid of the anxiety of it because I can't help like,
Yes.
I couldn't be a good mom to my kid because I was so anxious about like taking care of him financially because he has a lot of things he needs help with. And so for me, it's just changing the way that I ask for help,
I
you
love
know?
that.
Yeah.
Help
And
because really that's what we want is relief from the worry, the fear.
well, that's what drives us to drink and do all the things and numb. I think it's just
Yeah.
all the anxiety and all the
Yeah.
trauma and the not wanting to feel. And I think,
Hmm.
I mean, that's why I was drinking. It was not fun. I
Yeah.
was a blackout, straight up, give me a bottle of gin every night. I don't want to think
Right.
about anything in my life until tomorrow morning where I can get through the day and act like a normal human until 4 o'clock hits again. And I'm going to do the same thing over and over. And
Right.
I couldn't stop. Like I couldn't, it was so easy. And I'm like, it was so easy the first time. How did I have 13 years sober? I cannot not drink for 24 hours. Like I couldn't get it. Like I
I
couldn't get it.
know. That
I'm like,
that that so looking back, do you have I think it's always important. Like we always ask the question, why? Like, how did I get here? Why? Like for me, it was like, why did I have this experience? And sometimes it's like, okay, if I can pinpoint why it happened, then I can prevent it, from the future. Did you wrestle with all those questions after your relapse? Because you were sober for 13 years. That's a really long time.
yeah, I know. Thanks for reminding me.
That's amazing. I mean, 13 years is amazing.
No, it was. And it meant something. So I think I did a lot of work. Like I did the residential drug treatment program in prison. And I think that kind of backlogged everything except for the experience of prison and life after. You know
Relapse happened after prison?
what? Yeah.
Did,
So like I don't like when I started getting into therapy this year, that was my goal. Like I've done everything. Like I just don't work on my mental well-being. So I really haven't done anything. So I was like, I'm gonna get into this shit. And so part of it was like I hadn't processed like prison. And
so
like,
traumatic.
it's like I was in it, and when I was in it, I was processing my past. And then you
Right.
get out and you're like, you missed 2 years, I mean, 27 months of my life
Yeah.
was on pause. And, I did a lot of work on myself there. I came out stronger than I've ever been, ready to
Mm.
go. But I was not prepared for like getting into relationships and knowing like making those kind of big girl choices that you just do in every day. Like I was really good in my bubble in prison. I was good in my
Mm.
bubble, my world with work. I was not, I was not able to handle like relationships, friendships, male
Mm.
relationships. That's where the
Mhm.
disconnect because of all the trauma that I maybe had with women in prison or when I was younger. So that was a big piece of this past year for me, just this past year. Like I had stopped having dreams about all the high school girls, like still
Ah,
like trauma dreams like that. I've had just recently, I had a couple dreams with guys that I was in relationships with where I woke up and I literally said out loud, like, I just had complete closure for that relationship. Like I woke up,
wow.
text my like therapist, and I was like, we're gonna have to talk about this. It was like the dream came full circle and had like full closure of like one of a really traumatic relationship I had in college. And it was like I let it go. And it's like
Wow.
all of a sudden, like my dreams are different. I have like real friends in my life. I was a drug dealer. Everybody was my friend, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Total like, and then I was a personal trainer. So I see 30 people a day. So all my clients are my friends. So
Right.
I had, I don't know, and I'm not good with I haven't been very good with women in relationships with women. And I mean, it could be because, I mean, a lot of it is probably because of my mother.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm relearning all of that, I think is where I'm at this year. And so I don't, I'm sitting in it. Cause
Thank
I,
you so much for sharing about the trauma with or difficulty with women relationships because I don't think that's talked a lot about. When I first got sober, I got introduced to the program from a guy, and he was, but then as soon as he ushered me into 12 step, he was like, the women work with the women, and I was like,
oh,
like
I
I
didn't want
was,
I was like, well, can I have that male sponsor? Like, I was like, can I be
I
that?
know there's always that
I was
one
like, what if
guy.
they're gay? Can I have one of my gay guy friends do it? It's like,
Yeah, I totally relate to that because for me, women were competition because I was so externally validated. Like I spent a lot of time and money decorating the outside, and I felt like I had nothing on the inside. When they told me I had to work with a woman, I was terrified. I didn't have a great relationship with my mother. I didn't have great relationships with other women because I saw women as competition. And so I didn't know how to relate to women. So I'm so glad you brought that up because I think in the beginning, a lot of women, in the 12 step rooms, they say that you have to work with. It's terrifying. It's
yeah,
and frankly unsatisfying.
yeah, I just don't. Yeah, I have a hard time trusting women, and that's something
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to work on. My co-defendant set me up, and that's how I
Oh,
got my one case, and she was my best friend. I mean, I forgive her now. Like it's good. Like we still,
she was at a self-survival, self-preservation
yeah,
mode, probably. Yeah.
I mean, it's part of the deal. Like we're selling drugs. It's not a pretty world. And, but I've had a lot of like just the ones that I've let in since I got out of prison, even like I've gotten burned. And
Mm.
I
Can I just tell you, I want to be your best friend now to make you see that.
yeah, right. That is okay with me.
Let
Yeah,
me
and then
just let me just
I
bring you
know,
under my wing. I'll
I
take
know,
care of
right?
you. I'm such
Right.
a
I
rescuer.
know. That's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on it.
it
I
takes
stayed
time.
away from all men for the past, year. I did that whole thing.
Yeah,
And I did a lot of women meetings, and I just put myself out there, I just feel like, well, then it'll be another chapter while I get hurt. Like I just don't know how not to. And I'm like,
right.
so I try to be really vulnerable with the women and really open. And I'm like, I hug them and I like do all the stuff
Yeah,
because I know what I've learned is for my role in it is like I'm very intense, I'm very intimidating. Um, you know, it's like this sounds like fucking ego here, but it's sort of a blessing and curse when you're like pretty because you know what I mean? It's
I
like
do.
because people think like
I do. I know exactly what you mean.
I do thank you, sweetheart. Everybody just we're the best in the world. But I mean but seriously,
Yeah.
it's like it comes with a prejudgment. It comes with
Yeah.
bias. Like when I meet guys, they're like, "Oh, I bet you every single guy, like you get all these messages, you get all this stuff. I see what like comes through on your Facebook," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's meaningless. Like
Yeah.
it's completely inappropriate what they're doing, and it's it's the quality of the person that I'm looking for. Like it's not even like I don't even like it doesn't boost my ego when some douchebag decides to say some fucked up shit on me to me through Facebook. That's not like that's not going to build my confidence. If
I
they
always
told
feel like it's a copy paste message. Like
no,
you
if
get
they
these weird
told
messages, even listen, I'm 55, a little sexual harassment at my age is welcome. But every once in a while I get these messages and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's just copy paste.
I don't know,
Like I
but
feel
I'm
like they're just
like,
playing the numbers.
but if they were like Jesus, like you hustle and you work so hard and like that is awesome that you're sober and I see like I love what you're doing. Like I'd be like, okay, let's go on a date. Like, you got
Uh-oh,
me
you just gave them the key, the
right.
code.
You
You
tell
just
me
gave them
I
the
work that I work hard and yeah, I had
like they
a good friend of
actually,
mine.
yeah, someone who actually sees you. Yeah, we
Yeah,
all want to be
yeah,
seen, heard, and understood. And for
yeah,
someone to demonstrate that kind of awareness, that does feel authentic, you
yeah.
know.
A good friend of mine one time was like, he said to me, I was like, oh, I'm just making bone broth. I gotta say, I'm selling it on the side because I have like 100 little hustles. He's like, I've never seen anyone ever in my life hustle as hard as you do. And I was
You
like,
are a hustler.
it's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. It was like, oh, it was so like sweet.
That
Got me.
is sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have to talk about some of your hustle
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
but I was so curious. Okay, so we didn't really talk a lot about like how you got into prison, but fair to say, it was drug related, and then you went had your experience there, and you came out, and now you're in therapy. And listen, there's a saying that pain recognizes pain, but hustle recognizes hustle. And I work really hard, and I really admire women who can. I love your energy. Like
Oh,
as soon as you reached out to me, I was like immediately yes, because I really appreciate women who are willing to step into their full power. I know that sounds super cheesy, but I appreciate you just owning it, right? Like I see who you are, what you represent, and I see that what you're trying to do is help other women, right?
I know, isn't that the irony of it? Now it's like all I work with was women.
Yeah, because we know what it's like to suffer,
Yeah,
right? And I think if someone truly suffers and finds a way out, it's really such an interesting dynamic that it's a natural instinct to want to reach your hand back out to those, because there is an answer, there are solutions, and we do help each other. And listen, I'm sure you feel it as much as I do. When someone is willing to take action, there is something magical that happens inside me when I'm working with somebody who is ready, and they start having the lessons quickly. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I always
and
say,
so,
yeah, I always say, I will be by your side till the day you die to make sure we can get your health in line or do whatever we have to do. I will resource. I have a toolbox that's massive. I'm not afraid to refer her out. But if you are going to be a reactive person, not a proactive person, I have a hard time. So if someone wants to call me every day and bitch about their bloating and say they're fat,
uh-uh.
right?
Yeah.
That's totally okay with me as long as you're doing all the work that needs to be done. You know what I mean?
Taking action. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they're sitting there like, well, I don't know, I just went to McDonald's and then I decided not to go to the gym and then I'm like, I can't do this.
I don't
Like
have any,
I put too much
no
energy
patience.
into everything. I'm like, "Hey, well, you're gonna feel like shit. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
just,
what else to say.
with compassion, but it's really just all cause and effect, right? It's like
Yeah,
if you want to change, you have to take different action. So
yeah.
I'm with you. I don't do well with the victim
Oh no.
mentality. Listen, I'll listen to anything like 3 times, and then I'm like, we need to get into action. We need to stop talking about it and start doing
Yeah, I can't. Like
it.
I'm dealing with a friend right now in recovery and he's just he kind of had to come to like I knew he was like lying about his recovery and drinking like I knew and I just sort of like kind of pushed it a little more and then I was finally like dude you need to come clean and he's like okay
Yeah.
I'm gonna start my date over I got a new sponsor but it's like now he's like not going to meetings and he's wallowing and he just bitch I'm like no I can't do it anymore like I was like
Mm-mm.
here's the number of a psychiatrist you're depressed then you're like
Yeah.
like it'll be like I went to 4 meetings, but none of them are AA. I'm like, okay, what are the meetings? Like it's like he wants to go
Yeah.
to Al-Anon and like everything but what he needs to do. It's just
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah, and I get that. It's I think what you said earlier was right. It's like it's avoidance, it's pain avoidance. And we will, climb mountains to avoid the pain of doing the actual work, but it's easier to just surrender and to do the work.
So much easier, man. I remember like when I got sober after my relapse, I was like, just gonna sit here, I'm gonna sit in it. I'm just gonna sit in it. And then I was like, this feels really good, actually. Like I'm feeling like it feels like shit because I'm feeling stuff I don't want to feel. But it
Yeah.
felt so good to sit in it and just like be able to feel pain again, like and not numb it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd be on like Zoom calls and I'd like have to turn my video off and just like fall to the ground and start crying. I'd be like, okay. And I'd be
Yeah.
like, all right.
Excuse
And I'd be
me.
like, sorry, my dog had to go out. I mean, I was a mess, but it was just all
Yeah.
coming out. We numb for
Yeah.
years. And I mean, I've had a lot of therapy, even as a child. Like, so I can only imagine if someone has not done all that work. Like, I don't know. And maybe it's because I've done so much work that I can analyze
Yeah.
things. And so I know what I'm doing is wrong. Like, I don't know. But
Listen, we all have to kind of go through our own process. I think it's really important that there's that saying that you have to feel it to heal it,
I know.
right? And it's about processing pain to resolution. So I really admire you for going to therapy and getting professional help. I love 12 step, but that's peer support.
Oh, I
It's
do
also
all,
not, yeah, it's
yeah,
also not trauma informed. So I'm a huge 12 step advocate.
yeah.
But I am also a huge advocate of doing trauma therapy. That's typically what's behind people relapsing, or when people can't get sober, there's some core issues there. But so you have done a ton of work and you are helping other women, take care of healing their bodies. And once we get sober, it's like, okay, now what, right? It's like the world is your oyster at
Right.
this
Oh,
point,
yeah.
and some of us need to do a little bit of healing. So tell me a little bit about what kind of work do you do? Like, what kind of do you just exclusively work with women, or is it just
I
people who want to
actually
get
have a
better?
lot of men, but they're all like men, like entrepreneurs, like they wanna level up. So
Okay.
they're doing a lot of like the biohacking kind of stuff and
They're
they're really
Huberman
well.
husbands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But they're ready, they wanna like next level it. So
Okay.
I get those, or they've been pushed in because their wife is sick of hearing them bitch. Their wife is working with me and their wife's like, all he does is talk about his stomach aches and his bloating and he has
Okay.
gas all the time. He needs to work with you and then they'll get on board and they'll kind of go through it. So I actually have a fair amount of men. Which women are easier to work with, to be honest with you. I'm learning like my whole theory on that. It's like totally different. It's not quite what I thought. I'm like the stuff with these guys, but they're all awesome. I love every one of my clients are, I'm just so blessed. But I mostly work with women. It seems to be niching down to women in like in recovery.
Yeah. Like
Like
once
post,
they've solved the addiction problem, now they're
yeah,
trying to heal
a
a
lot
little
of them have
bit.
been sober for a fair amount of time, or they've been in and out, or or they're just, they may be gray area drinkers. They may have one glass of wine every once in a while, but they just don't drink. But they've seen like they're dealing with the repercussions as far as their health, or it's someone who's just been a mom, or someone who's just been super stressed out, or they have a chronic like autoimmune GI stuff as a kid. I get a lot of that. So it's sort of like the bottom line is they're doing all the right things a lot of times, or they've tried it and they've tried to eat right and they've gone and gotten all the lab work done and they work out, but the results are just not happening, like not at all. They almost like feel like they're worse. So the fatigue is worse, the bloating is worse. All of a sudden they PMS 3 weeks out of the month. They cannot get a handle on like what's wrong. And doctors at this point typically say, here's some birth control. Here's you know,
Antidepressant.
yep, that's the next thing I would say. Here's an antidepressant. Here's medication. There's a time and a place. I'm not
Hmm.
gonna sit here and say I'm an anti, but you can solve a lot of the female, like can't lose weight, my stomach's messed up, all that stuff without medication. Like a lot of it. You can do a lot of work with autoimmune without medication. And I run specialty labs. So I'll do like food sensitivity testing, hormone adrenal testing, GI panels, heavy metals, mold on the client to kind of figure out what's going on. So we just sort of like start peeling the layers of the onion to discover, what health problems they have, and then we start trying to heal the body. And
Yeah.
it even can eliminate, a lot of us when we get sober turn to sugar. Like
I feel called out.
all the sugar.
I got sober 29 years ago, but I still love me some sugar.
Yeah. So that's not a solution. And a lot of that just feeds that same dopamine, serotonin that we get from drugs and alcohol, but so do inflammatory foods. So
Yeah.
a lot of us are binge eaters. A lot of us will binge on things that are healthy. A lot of us will binge on sugar, but what happens is when you eat foods that like you have a food intolerance to, you're going to get that same response to in your body that you would get as using
Wow.
alcohol or drugs. It's the same signal that kind of goes to your brain, and then you do more of it, even if it's like
Right.
binging on carrots because you're reactive to carrots, and you go, and then it just causes a catalyst with all the food.
Right.
So we can work on a lot of like food addiction that way too. So it's pretty interesting. And then
So
I
you,
mean, if your hormones are a mess, you're all over.
yeah, yeah. So, at my age, I'm post menopause, and, they say that, it's not a calories in, calories out type of thing anymore. It's mostly based on the type of food you eat, is my understanding. And
Yeah.
there, So I just kind of want to touch on the effects of alcohol in your digestive system. It's my understanding that the alcohol will kill like healthy my gut
Microbiome.
microbiome. Is that right? How
Yeah,
does
yeah.
and so
Pretty
if
much
that
just
happens, how do you heal that?
so for me, I love to run a lab because 99.9% of my clients have an underlying gut infection, whether it's a
Infection.
parasite or SIBO or some sort of bacteria overgrowth, yeast. So we test for that, and then we have to remove all those infections, and then from there we begin the healing process. I would never recommend just like jumping into trying to heal the gut because most people have something else going on. It's like there's probably a reason why your gut has become so leaky or
Mm,
permeable, like your intestinal wall. So it's sort of like you wear out your intestinal wall through alcohol, poor diet, stress, which has too much cortisol in your gut, picking up a parasite, anything like that. Just basically your intestinal wall becomes leaky, and that's what they say, leaky gut.
that's what leaky
So
gut is.
yeah,
Yeah.
so all the stuff that you're eating goes out in your bloodstream, and you're very symptomatic. So a leaky gut's sort of like saying IBS, or it's like a very umbrella term. So I like
Mm,
to navigate what exactly is causing all the stress in the gut and the body, and then we fix that, we remove that, and then that's when you start healing with, bone broth, L-glutamine. There's a lot of supplements you can use to, some people, peptide therapy. There's a lot of different things that you can do to start healing the gut, colostrum. I'm not saying they're bad to do now, but
hmm
I'd probably
So
figure
you
out.
do a diagnostic panel of all those other things you
Yeah.
mentioned so that you sort of have the lay in the land, and then that you determine an order of like what's priority to heal first. And
Yep. Yep. And
yeah,
one protocols for everything. And I do everything, almost everything is just herbal supplements, and herbs to kill things and
yeah.
support the system. Yeah.
And so how long do you work with people, and what kind of results are they seeing?
So my clients usually stay on board with me for a year and then longer. So some find that all they have to do is their well women's exam, like their OB appointment for like their pap smear, they'll go do that. But really everything else, they pretty much meet with me once a month at that point, or whatever check-ins we got to do. I have different kind of like membership levels at the end.
Sort of like intensive in the beginning, and then
Yeah.
once you kind of address like the acute symptoms and issues, then
And
you
then
go
we
into
just
like maintenance.
check-ins, and yeah, it's maintenance. And some people are able to get off, their Crohn's, colitis medication. Some people with PCOS are off the metformin, they're off the birth control. Most women, it's interesting, especially my younger girls, really want to, like, they do not want to be on birth control. They do not want to, they're learning like young. It's like this millennial like sober movement. It's just
Yeah,
crazy. Like it's
so
trending.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
but it's like you want it as an addict who got sober when it's kind of like you want to be bitter about it, but then you're like, this is great. Like
yeah,
it's gonna be such a great thing for society. Like they may be millennials, but at least they're sober and not numbing everything that
yeah.
kids have. But they are living in a bubble and eating avocado toast all day. So I don't know.
Well, I love seeing the younger women, the younger generations, like the men too. I love this new sober movement, right? I think there's some pros and cons to it. I'm concerned about some of the permissive attitudes. But listen, I think it's a case by case basis, and I think as long as you're rooted in honesty and reality, I'll just tell you one of my little pet peeves, and I don't know if we talked about this before, but I think when we first started chatting, there was somebody was posting, it's like her unpopular opinion was that if she had been sober for a while but took a drink and went right back to it the next day, that wasn't a relapse. And I was like,
We didn't talk about this.
we
What?
didn't talk about that. And the amount of support and praise and engagement and agreement, I was overwhelmed. I was like, where is the truth in this? Where is the reality in this? Like that's the kind of thing that
I mean,
it
the only
concerns me.
way, in my personal opinion, that is okay is if you're at a party and somebody gives you a beverage and you didn't check it out and you accidentally take a sip of it. I probably wouldn't say that was a relapse if it was an
Yeah,
accident.
that happened to me at 9 years sober, but I didn't that wasn't
That's the only
a
time that I'm
conscious
saying, like,
choice. I didn't
yeah,
choose that.
No, and
But
that's
if you choose to drink, it's like, then what's the point of counting a streak if you're not going to acknowledge when the streak is broken? Like anyway, it's so that's the kind of thing that concerns me about this new wave. I do feel a need
probably,
for
yeah, but you gotta remember, like, for us, if we use again, we're probably gonna die. Like for me, I know, like, if I use, I will probably die. Like, I've had my 9 lives, I've done the prison thing, I've done the rehab thing. Like, I
yeah,
just, it's not gonna end well. Like, I just, and that's what, or at least that's the tape that I tell myself to keep me on track. So I take that kind of stuff very seriously. Like when people,
yeah.
because I've had to work really hard, at least the second time around, I had to work really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I realize that addiction is a spectrum and I'm like you. I'm on the far end. Like I know that I have another drink in me. I don't know that I have another recovery in me because that part's really hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that again.
Oh
So
yeah. And then relapsing with recovery in her head is not fun, or
that's
program.
brutal.
It's, yeah, like
Brutal.
fucking torture. I
So
mean,
it's better to
it
stay.
probably made me drink more, if anything.
I know. Yeah, it's
Like,
better to stay
I'm
on
gonna try
the
to get out of every reality of everything I've ever experienced that I know I'm doing wrong right now.
well, I mean, it's hard to beat a case of the fuck it, like once you start using again, it's so easy to say, "Oh, fuck it, I'll just start tomorrow."
Yeah.
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 Okay, that I kind of went sideways there. But let's talk again. Let's talk about you again. Let's talk about the work that you do. It sounds okay, so let's talk about some of the results that your clients are experiencing. Are we talking weight loss, mood stability,
Oh,
increased
all of it.
energy?
So
Yeah.
so weight loss can be a tricky one. That one can take a minute depending on what's going on in the gut. However, that
Okay.
can happen fairly rapidly. But I would say first things that I see are in here are less water retention. The joint pain goes away. They're
Oh.
pooping better. Their energy is better. They're sleeping better.
Oh,
Um,
that's a big
and
one.
weight loss. Yep. So those are definitely my women with hot flashes and night sweats. We can usually take care of that pretty quickly.
And how
Um,
are you taking care of that specifically? Because I'm having
so I
some.
like to run labs. I'm a big advocate on running labs to see where hormones are at. However, I'd hate to like throw this out there, but I'm gonna throw it out there because it won't hurt you if you're like going through the menopause thing and or you're in it and you're having those, is take something called Vitex or Chasteberry. It is a supplement that is amazing for hot flashes and night sweats.
Chasteberry, can you spell that for me?
Chasteberry, I believe.
Ah, I totally would have spelled that right. Okay, I'm gonna check those
Or
out.
Vitex. It'll
Vitex.
come up as Vitex.
Oh,
It's,
it's the same. Okay.
yeah. But you know, if you're going in it, you also probably need some progesterone, some bioidentical progesterone and estrogen on top of that. Um,
Okay.
but Vitex will help with the hot flashes and night sweats.
Okay. My pharmacy is out of progesterone. That's I'm pretty sure they have ED drugs, but God forbid they.
And, I can give you a link. Well, are you taking a pill?
Yeah.
You should probably do like a sublingual or a topical. It's just way better and it's better on the gut.
Progesterone?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you where to get that.
Okay. Well, you'll tell me. I'll put it in the show notes in case somebody is driving or
Okay.
whatever. Topical progesterone.
I mean,
Awesome.
I tell them out.
How do
I would say
people,
test.
what's that?
I said I can just give you the link to my online store, but I would say just test. Make sure you're testing things too, not just
Yes. Doing the
take,
labs. Yeah.
not take a bunch of estrogen on your own.
Oh,
That's
no, no. Yes, we're
just
not. Yeah, listen, we're not doctors. We don't play one on the internet, so we'll suggest we'll suggest you
genetics.
work with your doctor. But this is really helpful, though. How do people find out more about you or learn how you can help them?
I am all over Instagram and Facebook, either Samantha Lander. My Instagram handle is CFit Living, so SEEFIT Living, so not like the letter C. Um,
Right.
and then my website is www.cfitpt.com, but it's I need to update that bad boy. It's just going through
So
that.
so the best way to reach out to you is probably through Instagram.
Yeah, I would say just DM me. I'm good about checking it. I try to respond.
Okay. Awesome. I'll leave links to everything in the show notes.
And
Um,
then I do offer a free discovery call for anyone who's interested. It's basically a one-on-one call with me, and we'll do a full, super extensive since the day you were born health history. So I can find out every little health thing that's gone on in your life. And then that's when I come up with like, okay, here's what would be a really great program to get you where you need to be so you can stop running your head against the wall and
you do
expecting
that health history on the discovery call?
to do.
Wow, that's
I love,
huge.
I
Do
love,
you?
I love hearing about people's health, and I love them. I love when people are like, I have had cystic acne and I'm bloated and I can't poop, because I'm like, I can fix all of this if you just sign up.
Yeah,
It's what I like. I can help them. It makes me
yeah.
so excited. I get so excited.
Because because you've seen it. Like you've done
I've been
it, you've
through
seen
it.
it. Yeah, you went through it. Yeah.
Oh, I've been through all of it. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, even before I did drugs, and it's probably part of why I started, maybe, is because
Right.
I felt good, like, self-medicating with meth and all the things, and drinking wasn't working for me. And I had chronic fatigue as a kid. I was sick all the time with strep throat, sinus infections. I had
Wow.
horrible GI problems.
As a
Yeah.
kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Fifth grade, I remember my stomach was when that took a turn for the worst. And then
Wow.
it just sort of progressed.
Yeah, I mean that's just, that's evidence, if you've ever suffered or struggled and found a solution, it's hard not to want to shout it from the rooftops and save others.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. That's
you know,
beautiful. I love the work that you're
can't
doing.
heal. Today I keep thinking like, it's crazy. My business is just going into this like recovery world. Like, because it's like I just like when I started drinking, like I destroyed my body doing drugs.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
and I
you
healed.
do.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
doing GHB, which is like made from concrete cleaner, like, and drinking it on the daily. Oh yeah. Like, so I destroyed my body. And then I fixed it, and I
Mhm.
felt amazing. I still have my ups and downs because I have PCOS, and I work a lot, I hustle a lot. Like, I don't always practice what I preach. But then I was drinking. I mean, that drinking, like, I'm like getting into the research on it. It is so horrible. Like one drink, like even just for like dementia and Alzheimer's and like a
Oh
gray matter
yeah.
in your brain, what they say and what it does to your gut. And so I feel like coming out of it, knowing what I know and just doing what I've learned, that I've been doing for over 20 years, all this stuff. I got back on the wagon pretty quickly with like my gut health and everything.
What I appreciate you saying is that, we don't always practice what we preach. We're human, right? You don't have to be perfect to be healthy. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, I teach a self-esteem class and they say that you teach what you need to learn. That doesn't mean that we don't have valuable information and it's really important. I feel like we can relate and be authentic.
Oh, I'm pretty straight up. Like I don't
Yeah,
drink
you are.
water. I work too much. I do. I like Chinese food, like I'm not,
Who
but I always
doesn't?
tell my clients, like, my goal is to get you to be able to eat, like, you're gonna have to be pretty strict and we're gonna follow all the food restrictions or whatever we gotta do. But down the road, if we do all the work right, you'll be able to go out and eat that pizza that you love and not feel like shit and put on 10 pounds and hate yourself
Right.
and shame yourself and then go down the whole thing. Like
Right.
we'll get everything in line. Like I can eat Chinese food and my sinuses will get fucked up, but otherwise I'll feel fine. Like I'm
Yeah.
not like, I mean, I will tell you, I ate some sunchokes, which are like the most prebiotic food you could eat. My friend's like, well, just be careful. I'm like, well, every time I eat these, I feel like crap. He's like, well, here's why. And I didn't know why, but it's like my gut was so fucked up. And
What were you eating?
I had sunchokes.
What's that?
It's like it comes from a sunflower. It's like a mini little potato type thing. It's like
Oh, okay.
really good. I don't know. It's so good, but will never eat them again because every time I eat them, they jack me up. And I was like, this is what I felt like every day. Like with
Wow.
that gas and bloating and like
Yeah.
it was so bad. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, silver lining.
Food sensitivities. Yeah. Yeah, your
But
body changes over time.
yeah,
Anyway,
that's
even if
it
you do
was.
take care of yourself, it changes over time. So, Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. I am so glad that I got to meet you and talk to you today. I love the work that you're doing. I talk a lot about, how to get sober, but really it's, then what? How do we heal our bodies? And then, for those of us in long-term sobriety who, go through the change, we need to relearn how to take care of our bodies. So it sounds like you can help people at every stage. So I hope
Yeah,
people reach out to you and get it done.
yeah, and I think it's a positive focus, like, you know,
100%.
I mean, I see a lot of people get out of it addiction, and they get addicted to working out, but like it's finding that balance, and I think it's like, this is a really healthy addiction to like get into, is like,
Well, it's a
well,
focus. It's a healthy focus. It's like we have a lot of energy. We need to channel that energy into something positive. And I love how you're doing it. It's a very positive, focused way to heal the body.
like,
All right, my dear. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to chat again real soon.
oh, we will,
Th-
thank
Thanks.